What's going on, party people? Welcome to another episode of Culture 316. I'm one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Ahisi.
And your second co-host, Edge's Throat Gomo. What is up, people? I missed y'all. Shout out to Banks, by the way, for filling in for me last week. He's an
Yes,
amazing
sir.
person.
Shout outs to my guy Banks. And once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in with us once again. If you're on Apple or Spotify podcast, be sure to give this show a 5 stars, rate the show. If you're on YouTube or anywhere where your podcast is streamed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe once again. Also, big shout outs to everyone who joined our 316 space this past Saturday while we watched Survivor Series. We had so much fun. The numbers are getting up there, and we really appreciate it. We're trying to set out to get 100 by WrestleMania. So anytime you're in a space, be sure to share it. You know what I mean? Share it with any wrestling friend that you have because we're trying to make this one of the best online safe spaces to have online when it comes to pro wrestling.
Yeah,
Also
even if
wanted
you
to
guys aren't even watching the show, just come in for the laughs, because, bro, that's what we did the entire time. There's some
That's a
people that
fact.
wasn't keeping up with WWE. They didn't even have Peacock. And we was just sitting there laughing, bro, just cracking jokes. It's a good time.
It is. It really is a good time. And once again, it's a safe space and it's so much fun anytime we come together and do these 316 spaces. So just come pop out. You ain't got to speak. You could just, be there for the views, for the laughs, or laugh with us. Don't matter. Just pull up to the next one. I think the next one is NXT Deadline, which is in December 10th, I believe the exact date is. So be sure to pop out to that next 316 space. Also, wanted to send our regards as a show to Mickey James this past week. Her brother and I believe it was a niece or a nephew was
Mhm.
tragically killed in a car accident. We just wanted to we wanted to send our well wishes, prayers, good vibes out to Mickey James and her family. We love you. We support you, and we are here through your time of need. But yeah, I know that that's a very heavy thing to deal with. But we are moving on with the show. So, this past week, WWE aired its 36th edition of Survivor Series. Triple H revealed during, I believe, the Survivor Series press conference that this year's Survivor Series was the highest viewed Survivor Series via Peacock. Essentially like the largest or the highest viewed Survivor Series in the history of the company. It also drew the largest gate ever produced by a WWE event in Boston. And for context, by the way, Boston has held SummerSlam, I believe. Boston has held the Rumble. Boston has held WrestleMania before. So to draw that to have the largest gate off of Survivor Series is a very big deal. But I wanted to know what were some of your takeaways overall from the event as it pertained to Survivor Series.
While I didn't think that it was a 10 out of 10 show, there was definitely a lot of low points. There was points where I expected that I wasn't going to be that enthralled or interested as a fan. I think that um for the most part, if I had to like think about what was the biggest takeaway was the main event.
Mm,
I think we all could agree that
yeah.
the men's outdid the women, and that's not to say that the women weren't trying. It was just because the men had a more compelling story going in.
Hmm.
So that's where a lot of the viewership and that's where the money was in. Um, with the females, I don't believe it picked up until unfortunately Becky came in, and the endings would save them because it was very sloppy, kind of uncoordinated, a lot of boring or low spots. Kind of wish they would have done a little bit more. I felt like they were trying to fill it in with them throwing in like weapons in there with like the trash can lids and the kendo sticks and then all these like spots that just weren't really like hitting for me. But the ending came with Becky, and that's when we felt like there was a bit of a story. Because that's the fun part about war games is you're supposed
Hmm.
to have a bunch of individual feuds going in. I guess
Hmm.
it is a 5-on-5, but you're supposed to have like this person beefing with this person, this person beefing with this person. So when they come out, you're like, oh my God, like it's just about to go down. But you didn't really get that with the females because there really wasn't much going on with them. There wasn't really much like of a real compelling story. It was rushed. Whereas with the men, it was better than what I could have expected. I think we all could have agreed that going
Mm-hmm.
in there after watching Friday Night SmackDown, that we all thought they was gonna turn on our boy Sammy. And I think we were all just like sitting on the edge of our seats thinking, oh my God, it's gonna happen. We're not gonna have any more oopsie, none of that. And then surely enough, they gave us like a little plot twist that gave us another storyline, another layer there. Um, and it was perfect. It was perfect. The fact that I think they had Jimmy getting his ass beat, and instead of sitting Jay out, they're just like, I like this is where you're gonna make or break if you're really for us or you're on the other team.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of us expected that Sammy was going to turn on his best friend. I
Mm.
don't think we expected it. Even despite the fact that Kevin Owens has turned on Sammy so many times, I don't think a lot of us was expecting it. So when it did happen, we're like, "Oh shit, this man committed. He took dick right into the end, bro. Like for real." Like it was
To the
the
end.
perfect ending cuz it's true. Yo, he dick ride like the whole way into to the end. And I'm not even mad at it. I'm not even mad at it. It was the perfect ending and it gave us another storyline. And that's what War Games is supposed to do. It's supposed to end like a big feud, but it's supposed to produce another one. So there's that little subplot going over there. The
Mm.
little subplot that Kevin Owens got beef with Sammy. But we're gonna touch upon how that worked out on Monday night. What
Mm-hmm.
did you think about the show?
So I think that, like you said, it wasn't one of those things where it was a ooh, my mic is out. It wasn't one of those things where it was a 10 out of 10 show, but I feel like it was a very, very important benchmark as we go into WrestleMania season, right? Because it's November, but it's going to be April before you know it. I think that this is one of those shows that we're going to look back to in March, in February, where it was like, oh, this WrestleMania match is about to happen. It started here, or it had its roots in Survivor Series. But I had a couple of takeaways from this event. So number one, I think that just based on the media scrum, because I think this is like the first big four that they've done a media scrum on this level for. Based on the media scrum that I saw, one of the things that I gathered was that Triple H is the perfect leader for this next era of WWE. This is something that we've talked about over and over and over again, but I feel like his transparency, his mind, his sense of innovation, and his ability to keep an open mind and try new things, I think is what's going to propel WWE into the next 20, 30 years. And I think that seeing him kind of in that light with the transparency that he had, the vulnerability that he had, um, you know, I think that it was just a very, very good sign. And he was also talking about like, answering questions about potential more international shows. And he was like, listen, we're trying to do everything and we're trying to go everywhere. So clearly he has very, very big goals and aspirations. So that was my first takeaway. The second takeaway that I had was that Austin Theory is the next face of WWE. Um, we talked about Theory and his cash ins. We talked about Theory and his cash ins.
Okay.
Um, here's what I'll say. And this is the reason why I said that I said he's going to be the next face. I didn't say that he's going to be widely accepted, nor did I say that he's
Okay,
going to
because that's where
be.
you lost me.
Yeah, no, I think that he's going to be the next face though, because I feel like what Hunter was doing was essentially rebuilding Austin Theory. He was stripping him of everything that Vince gave him and essentially telling Theory to get back in his bag, get back in his evolved bag, get back into you know the Austin Theory that made WWE want to sign him when they saw him when he was with Evolve. And now we're seeing shades of that. And I honestly think that he is become number one, while he's not necessarily still likable, I think that he's way more believable. And I think that that was very important in his creative journey. And I think that that's going to set him up. The third thing that I have is that the SmackDown Women's Division is weak as hell, and it desperately needs help. They need Sasha Banks. That when I watched the Ronda Rousey versus the Shotzi match, which we'll talk about later in the show because of topics later in the show, I was like, man, this was honestly the best route they could have gone at that time with the champion that they had, with the challengers that they had. It's just unfortunate because it's like Sasha gives you so much depth and so much versatility and can put on a good match of anyone. And I feel like her presence uh her presence, or I should say her absence, is felt in moments like these when you have a big four pay-per-view in Boston and you can't go back to Sasha Banks. And I just feel like the SmackDown Women's division just needs her. And it's just not giving. It's lacking, in my opinion. And um I was gonna say that my last takeaway is that the bloodline is the best faction of the modern era. That's my takeaway. It has eclipsed the Shield. When we talk about storylines and we're talking, can we talk like, can we recall a storyline that was this compelling and that also elevates this many divisions simultaneously? Because now you have the Usos, who are the longest reigning tag champs, right? Which means that whoever beats them, price going up. Whoever beats Roman, price going up. Solo or Sammy can go after an Intercontinental or a US championship. Prices of those going up. So now you have so many different subplots that are coming out of this bloodline storyline that it has the potential to raise every single division, with the exception of the women's division, of course. And I think that when we look at what happened in War Games, like the fact that it took even down to like just how the teams were constructed, right? The Brawling Brutes, Drew and KO versus the Bloodline. That Brawling Brutes team had 3 former world champions, and the Bloodline beat them. That elevates the Bloodline. And now we see what's going on with Sami Zayn, and we're seeing what's going on with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and seeing that little thing, and even seeing the little reactions at the end of Survivor Series, because not only did they provide a plot twist, but they provide a lasting image that's probably going to be the seeds of what happens next. You pay attention to Solo Sikoa and his body language and how he's not adamant on joining the Bloodline's acceptance of Sami Zayn. Does he know something that we don't know? Because Sammy and Solo have been pretty close. Does Sammy know some? Does Solo know something about Roman or Jay's true feelings towards Sammy? We don't know. But that's what makes this so interesting and so compelling. And to be honest, if wrestling is about the storylines, I don't recall a Shield storyline being this good or compelling. I don't recall um I don't like name a faction in the past 10 years from any company that has produced something on this level. The only other company that has had a faction within the past, I would say, 5 to 10 years, who has produced something on this level as far as a storyline of this quality, is probably Aces and Eights in TNA. And even like the gap between them and this is very, very far. So I those were just like my little takeaways from from Survivor Series. Um, Apparently, I'm not the only one that has praises for Sami Zayn, because The Undertaker as well had a lot of high praises for Sami Zayn. Essentially, just kind of he went on the he I believe he went on a podcast or something along those lines. No. He was speaking of Justin Brazzaro of Sports Illustrated, and he was talking about Sami Zayn's character and his role in the Bloodline. And this is what he said. Sammy's character is so intriguing in that whole mix. It is very clear who the Bloodline is and what they stand for, and they go out and do their deal. But adding Sammy gives so many more layers. Plus, you have the tension between Sammy, the Usos, and Roman. It works so well. He went on to say, Sammy is a vital part of the whole thing, and he's never been a bigger star. But this is also important for the Bloodline. It gives them something new. Roman has been champion for over 2 years. That means that that means he has to go out and beat everyone he faces, right? That's tough, but it's a new dynamic with Sammy in there. How can you not enjoy this? It's great storytelling. So clearly, The Undertaker is feeling Usi. I wanted to know how you felt about those comments. Do you agree with The Undertaker's comments on Sami Zayn?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Because I think a lot of people were, well, I mean, there's people who love Roman Reigns no matter what he does, as long as he's champion or whatnot. He has been like one of the greater champions in recent time, but it was getting a little bit tiring watching him have singles feuds, because it was predictable at that point. Like, all right, he's gonna run through this person, he's gonna run through this person, he's gonna run through this person, So they had to add layers by giving him a faction. But it's just like, all right, how are we gonna get to The Rock?
Mm,
How are we gonna make this interesting so we can make it to The Rock? And like Sami Zayn is so good at what he does. Him and Kevin Owens are like neck and neck on how like good they are with their characters and bringing interesting storylines, to the forefront. So I loved it. Um, and Sami Zayn doesn't like look like someone that you would think that like a Vince McMahon would care to like invest in. And I love that how Triple H has definitely bought the two of them and made them like important figures into adding more layers into not just like with Roman, but just again the whole Samoan dynasty storyline, like the whole bloodline thing. I love it so much. Because I mean, this is how you create stories and characters and stuff like that. So love it. Sammy's great. He deserves all his flowers. Um, God, this man just doesn't miss. Just he's so good with the ring psychology, whether it's inside the ring or the story he tells outside the ring. That's the best part about Sami Zayn. You're not tuning in so much for his wrestling ability, but for the entertainment quality. So I love him, and I'm glad that he said this because a lot of people have been shitting on my boy Taker because of his previous takes about how today's wrestlers are a bunch of kids that play video games and stuff like that, and they aren't tough men and stuff like that. Well, now he's in with the times because y'all said he was tuned out. What he's watching this, he's enjoying it, he's in with the times, and he loves Sami Zayn. So you know what? I love that because I knew that he wasn't that narrow minded as what people
mm,
thought he was. So the fact that he gave his take, I love it. I love it so much. I value a lot of what the Undertaker has to say or think just because he's been in this business for a long time. He's been the front face of it. He's been part of so many vital storylines. I feel like he knows what he's talking about and he's entitled to have an opinion even if it's not favorable. But this
mm.
is definitely something that we could all agree upon. All right. My man may be old, but he hasn't lost his touch, all right? So leave him alone here. But another thing I wanted to just comment on was just like your take on Triple H because I noticed that as time goes on, a lot of people aren't feeling Triple H. They keep saying that he's not making any changes. He's not helping out, this division or this division over here. Nothing's different. It's just lukewarm Vince or something like that. Or some people are, you know, pandering and saying that, oh, Vince should just come back. So I like that you took the time to comment on all the ways that Triple H has been helping out the company because I don't think people have been really paying attention. They're just
Mm,
echoing off what they hear on social media, or they're probably not actually watching because he
mm,
has been making changes, good changes. They may not be things that you guys all agree with, but there has been improvements. There has been diversity. Maybe not be perfect because there's still a lot of work to clean up people. He's only been back in this position for a couple months. I feel like if you give it a year's time, this whole company's gonna be transformed. But I don't think anyone's gonna see it until the next WrestleMania,
mm.
and then y'all gonna have to give this man his flowers.
I agree with. I'm gonna build on top of those Triple H comments after I talk about my little Undertaker comments because it's when people say that the Undertaker is the greatest character in the history of pro wrestling, that's not an exaggeration. So this is a man that has um a knowledge on pro wrestling storytelling that about 95% of wrestlers don't have. 95% of, and I would say a majority of wrestling fans don't have. So the fact that the Undertaker is watching what we're all watching and he's able to witness the quality of everything, I think it's amazing. And I think that he's spot on. I think that the addition of Sami Zayn to the bloodline adds so many different layers on an already compelling story. The bloodline itself has layers. Let's not forget about the little feud that Roman and Jay had. And then, Jimmy coming back. And now so there's already layers there. The fact that Sammy adds even more layers to it, I think, is what makes the bloodline storylines so rich and so intriguing. You know what I mean? And so I think that once again he's spot on, and I also agree. Sami Zayn has not, you know, Sami Zayn is one of the most entertaining pro wrestlers on the planet, as MJF said. And I feel like all that it took was the right situation, the right, context to highlight him the way that he deserved to be highlighted. And now we're seeing him in the proper context of him being highlighted the way he should be highlighted. There was a point in time where I remember, this is like years ago, where people thought Sami Zayn needs to go to AEW. He needs to go back on the indies. It's like he doesn't need to do any of that. He just needs someone who is in the creative realm of WWE to kind of see, everything that we know him to be, especially if you've been watching him since NXT. And I'm glad that he's getting his just due now. But I 100% agree with the Undertaker comments. Now, as it pertains to Triple H, I think that one of the things that a lot of people don't recognize is how difficult change is in corporate America. Not just in wrestling, not just in media, not just in entertainment, but in corporate America. You have to undo a lot of the stuff that's been done in addition to doing new things. And that takes a lot of time and that takes a lot of work. And on top of that, it's a professional adjustment for Triple H, right? The last time he was consistently producing TV on a weekly basis was NXT. 2 hours. Sometimes it was live, sometimes it was to tape, and going from 2 hours a week to essentially 5 hours of television is a very, very big difference. Learning how to adjust to book for 3 hours is difficult. And then on top of that, learning how to deal with competing networks between Fox and USA and properly adding value to both is very, very difficult. So I think that Hunter is doing a good job. I don't think that we're going to be seeing the change that we think we want to see until later on, but there's already been significant changes in just the quality of the storylines, wrestlers feeling more relaxed and more creative and more encouraged to do things, the talent that's been brought back, which has allowed for more depth in the rosters. Like the SmackDown tag team division literally went from 0 to 100 in a week just from adding Hit Row and bringing back LDF or LDF coming to the main roster and then integrating the World Cup. Like there's so many things that have been happening already that have paid immediate dividends for the fans. And so I think that we just need to be a little bit more patient with Triple H. But moving on. So AEW Dynamite was last night, and there were a lot of things that were happening. Number one, Maxwell Jacob Friedman is obviously the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion, and he has a new belt to go along with it, the BBB, or the Big Burberry belt. Number one, what were your impressions on the belt?
I loved it. I thought it was like such a good heel move. It made me excited because it reminded me of being a kid and we watched John Cena come in with like his own first custom belt. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like in order to even like get a company to just construct a whole new belt to fit your character, they have to view you to be very high. So, that obviously to me just made me think like thank God finally like this is really MJF's freaking era to
Mm-hmm.
get your own belt. And he was the first one to deserve to get his own belt. I loved it. I loved how they just only changed the strap to it, but they still kept the actual like AEW gold and the engravements on it. I
Mm-hmm.
love that about it. Some people thought it was tacky, but even if it's a little tacky, it's even better because you know what I mean? Like the thing about MJF is that he doesn't give a crap.
Right.
He wants to flash his money, flash his worth. Of course, it goes with the Burberry scarf or whatnot. I think it was amazing. I loved his promo. He took up like 20 minutes of our time, but it was pure gold. The whole lead up and presentation to it was just amazing. How he just slandered us for falling for what he thought. Um, and then the whole heel turn on Regal, which we're gonna get into. But I just thought it was just an amazing moment. And if anyone deserved to get a custom belt first, definitely MJF. There's no one else I honestly think at this moment in time deserves a custom belt, but MJF definitely did, and it was just done wonderfully. What is your take on the belt change?
The belt change was phenomenal. Like you said, it definitely reminded me of like when Cena popped out with that spinning US championship for the first time in Armageddon '04. Yeah, I think it was Armageddon '04. It was so dope because like you said, considering all of the people that have held that championship, CM Punk, John Moxley, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, like these are guys that are not just notable wrestlers, but they're also notable brands. And if either of them were to get a custom championship, it would make sense. However, MJF having his own version of the belt elevates the championship and also elevates him, right? Like he's the only one with the breadth and the stroke to get this done. And
And
I think that
homegrown.
homegrown. And the interesting part about it is like he keeps talking about the bidding war of 2024, and I think that there are shades of reality in that. But I feel like the fact that he has gotten this custom belt at this juncture in his career shows me that the bidding war has already started when it comes to AEW. This was their first kind of token saying this is what not only we can do for you, but what we are doing for you, and this is another reason why you should stay with us. So I think that that's very very interesting that they gave him this belt, and the belt is so beautifully designed because it's not it is the Burberry print. However, the way that it is designed, it's a heavy brown accent, so it's still dark, so you still see the pattern, but it still kind of retains like a little bit of prestige and class to it because it has that dark pattern and the gold doesn't clash with the strap. Like I think it's just perfect. The BBB is not only the BBB or the big Burberry belt is not only a sign of who MJF is as a champion, but I think a sign of what AEW is willing to do to keep him. And so I think that that was a really really good belt, and I feel like it was a great debut. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that debut because what happened towards the end of that debut was pretty juicy. But also we got Hangman confronting John Moxley. So, and the question that I have for you pertaining to that was like, is that something that you want to see? Do you want to see another Moxley Hangman match?
I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I unfortunately didn't get to watch the whole opening. I had to go back and watch some clips, but I do find it very entertaining. Do I think it's necessary for them to go at it again? No, I don't
Mm.
particularly think so, but at the same time, it's like, who else is gonna go for Mox at the moment? Like, who else do they properly set up? Because we have already like our feuds that we kind of need to be going on and progressing. But it was so entertaining the way they set it up from the clips that I saw and the reactions that social media had. You know what? Maybe it's deserving of one more. But my question is why? Like, why are they having them go back at it again?
I
Like,
mean,
why that
I
choice?
I could see why. Number one of the things that I love about pro wrestling sports entertainment is when they are able to create feuds that have championship implications without a championship involved. And I feel like that is the perfect
Mhm.
way to have a feud that has a championship implication without having a championship involved. You put two guys head to head against each other that clearly have history. Their last match was for the world title. Nobody got pinned or submitted. Hangman can come back and say, listen, dog, like, yeah, you knocked me out, but you didn't pin me. You didn't submit me. You know what I mean? Like, and now you have something to go off of there because you have unfinished business. And you could also say, Hangman can also say, how you not gonna pin me or submit me and then lose my title? Now I gotta go through you, go through other people to get to MJF. You just made my path way more difficult than it has to be, and you didn't even beat me. So I definitely see the value in a Moxley versus Hangman match again, because once again, it's like you have championship implications, and you also have unfinished business. And I think that those two create a perfect storm in a way. So that's my reasoning why I think that it has value.
I like that. I like that take.
So going from that, uh we can touch on this like a little briefly. Bow Wow made his first AEW appearance via digital or what is it, satellite confrontation with Jade. And I just wanted you to kind of
He
give
was
your
recording with a
spiel
potato.
on I just wanted to know your take just on that segment, and what ensued from it.
I'll be honest, it was just corny to me, and I think it's because if they would have like caught him immediately when we saw that back and forth going on and had him come on the show within 2 weeks, that
Mm,
would have been lit. But then again, he kind of did like this through satellite, so it's like if that was your way of getting Bow Wow involved onto the show, that was kind of weak. I'm sorry,
mm,
like to wait this long after people stopped giving a fuck because like Bow Wow isn't like currently he's not really up there with celebrities. From what I'm hearing, this man's possibly broke. I don't know. But the thing is that, like, it's not gonna add any value. I understand they're trying to, like, flash, a lot of celebrity names, from familiar faces. It was one thing when you had Fabulous there because everybody knows Fabulous, and Fabulous is always doing alright. But Bow
Hmm.
Wow for, like, this late, it was just kind of odd, and it made me wonder, like, do they just not have anything in particular going on right now for Jade? Because they were
Mm.
kind of odd about her. They threw out Kiera Hogan out of nowhere, and then she kind of started off the show by talking about that she basically was cleaning up the baddies. She called out um she called out Red Velvet and the other one about, like, why were you hanging out with her? And then it was just a weird quick transition just to plug in that, yeah, we acknowledge the whole Bow Wow thing. Let's make it a thing.
Hmm.
So I just found that it was just kind of like weak, and I'm not sure if again they know what they're doing with Jade sometimes, because the way she said it, she set it up correctly. She was talking about how, you put her back in the locker room next to anyone, you know that she's the star of the show, which is correct. That no one looks like her, no one got a body like her. It's down the fourth, and she's all these amazing things, but they just don't have anything proper for her. So I honestly just feel like when it comes to Jade, they need to just put her like towards working towards the AEW championship, because I don't think
Mm.
anyone is worthy of dethroning her at this point in time. So they're just giving her like these little side quests to do, and I don't like the side quests,
Mm.
especially not with Bow Wow. Like, come on now, that's not gonna, if anything, that's not gonna amp her up. It's not gonna elevate her. It's just to acknowledge that Bow Wow still exists. And nobody cares. That's Gen Z, to be honest, because they didn't really grow up with Bow Wow like
Oh,
we
Bow Wow.
did. And I
That
don't
makes
even
sense.
care. I don't even care. And I was born in 97. I don't even care that Bow Wow's there. So it was just weak. What do you think about Bow Wow's little satellite appearance through a potato?
Here's my honest opinion on it. First of all, do a potato is crazy. Second of all, second of all, here's I think it was smart. I think it was smart because you know what's worse than making a satellite appearance and not getting a pop? Coming in person and not getting a pop. Because if he were to go into that arena and he didn't get a reaction, that's money out of AEW's pocket, right? That's traveling, that's paying for him for an appearance, that's paying for his team. And now, by you doing a little video message, you can have Bow Wow a part of your show without having to go through the hassle of paying his whole team and flying him out and da 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 da. So I think it was a good way to kind of like put it out there and in a way that would engage to see where like this feud can go. You know what I mean? Based on the audience response. The second thing is I've been very, very open about my respect for Boward Woward. However, what I
Howard.
will say, that's his full government name. Bow Wow's full government name is Boward Woward, not Shad Moss. Boward Woward. The reason why I believe that, while I don't think that this does anything for Jade in the wrestling ring, this does do her something when it comes to her crossover appeal, right? That Shade Room video had 5 million views. That's insane. 5 million views in less than a week. That's insane. And all the while she's doing Breakfast Club interviews and she's with Tamron Hall and she's like, it's very, very clear that the way that AEW sees Jade Cargill is the same way that WWE sees Bianca Belair. She is the crossover star. She is the mainstream appeal. And what happens is when you have the mainstream appeal and you have the crossover star, you want to position those people to do as much crossover mainstream appeal stuff as they possibly can. Could it possibly not be Bow Wow? Absolutely, right? I feel like there could definitely be a bigger name in the mix. This is who they have right now, though, and you can make it work because this is Bow Wow. This is someone who is interested in wrestling, who has put his name out there, and for better or for worse, this is a guy that generates press. So while I feel like this doesn't do anything for Jade as it pertains to the AEW locker room, it does do something for her crossover appeal in the sense that now you have something to give to Shade Room. Now you have something to give to these outlets, right? But yeah, I feel like she's going to be moving away from uh that AEW TBS championship and moving towards the world title, unless they want to elevate the TBS title as being kind of like a secondary world title, the way that WWE had the WWE championship and the world heavyweight title. um but at this point, if they're not, then Jay just needs to relinquish it and go after the world title, which I don't think that she's going to do, because I think that she wants to elevate the title as well. Moving on from that, in addition to that confrontation, MJF attacked William Regal. I was very, very surprised at that actual move. I wanted to know your thoughts. I'm not going to get too in depth, because I think this is going to flow into the next segment kind of perfectly, but I wanted to know your thoughts on
First of all, I yell, "Oh my gosh, my granddad is down. Someone go help my
this.
granddad." Like, I was very upset. That man has a neck problem, okay? And like he went
Right.
down very hard, okay? He had no life alert or nothing, okay? He just went down really hard. And
Not
nobody
life
had my
alert.
boy. I was very upset. I was very upset. I didn't expect the turn to happen so soon. I honestly
Mm-hmm.
thought that they were going to make them a duo and, have William Regal coach him and like basically he was gonna milk Regal for everything that he's known for to do because he's very he's like known to be like the dirtiest heel, you know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
figured he was going to milk Regal, play on his emotions a little bit longer, and then reference what he referenced, which was the callback to that email from years ago that
Mm-hmm.
ticked him off and broke him down. But am I mad that it happened so sudden? No, I'm actually not. I'm not, because he kind of accomplished what he had to accomplish without doing what William Regal told him to do. You know what I mean? It was almost as
Mm-hmm.
if for a moment he cared, right? Because you made him be vulnerable on stage and, admit his insecurities and as to why he cannot stand him or why he does the foolish things that he does. Not really foolish, vindictive things that he does. You know, he had played a role being a baby face and acting like he wants to protect John Moxley so he's fresh and he's at 100% for when he wants to beat his ass, just to, do what we expected him to do and be a heel and do heel like things. Because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, he's still MJF and he's better than all of us. Um,
And we know it.
so yes, and we know it. So so I wasn't very upset that it was sudden because it was an MJF fashion either way. Um but it does lead to the question, why so sudden? What are we going to do with William Regal because he was such a prominent face and in such a big role on for both main eventers John Moxley and um whatchamacallit, and
Brian
MJF.
Danielson.
So again, it does beg the question, what do you do with William Regal? Like, is there something in his contract that allows him to go elsewhere? Does he want a
Mm.
little break? Is he going to go on vacation? Or are we going to see him go to another brand? What is your take, and what do you think is to come of William Regal?
Sorry, I was looking at my notes while I was going over, because I typed it out. Um,
You're
so
totally good.
I think that when it comes to the MJF William Regal dynamic, I was anticipating more like you. However, I feel like there is this heated debate, not heated debate, but there's this long standing debate in wrestling, which is, if people cheer for you, are you a heel or can you be a heel? Right? The answer is no. I feel like William Regal, as much of a villain as he is loved, right? And I feel like if you attach that lovable person to you, you in turn will have some of that love as well, right? And I feel like MJF is building his brand as the devil himself, right? He is the ultimate villain. He is the ultimate bad guy. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you want to do that, you have to continue to do things that are going to get you hated. They're going to continue to do things that make you hated. And I feel like that is something that can potentially make you hated, because William Regal is so admired and loved in the wrestling community. Um, I do believe that this can transition into other things. I'm going to get into that when the segment pops up, but I do think that this is a sign of of where Regal is, and in his standing with AEW. I don't think he's going to be there for much longer. And I think that he's currently being transitioned gracefully on the way out. But yeah, as far as what do I feel about the whole MJF, hitting Regal, I think it was the right move. I think that it's something that William Regal would have wanted him to do, considering his brand of being a heel. And I think that it's very much in line because you got to also consider this, right? MJF's next opponent presumably is Ricky Starks, right? You have to continue to gain as much heat as you can when you go up against Ricky, because Ricky's the ultimate babyface. People have been wanting to see Ricky and MJF forever. And people are starting to fall in love with Ricky Starks. So I feel like another way that you can enhance the quality of the baby face that you're going against is by increasing the heat on you as a heel. So that's just my little take and my little theory on
Yeah. Actually, the way that you put it made sense too, because he almost like crescendoed into this because
that.
he did
Mm-hmm.
even take a jab at the fact that people know that he's in Hollywood right now, and he teased the idea that, oh, like I forgot from where he said, but he basically teased the idea that he's going to Hollywood, which I thought was cool. In a heelish move because yeah, don't play on our heartstrings, man. We fell in love with you. Even if you're the
Right.
biggest dick to us, we love you. So he did try to pull on our heartstrings with that, which was a nice way of crescendoing. He name dropped, I think, Nick and Triple H, basically saying like, he could jump ships and he might just leave here, which was another dickhead heel move because AEW fans are pretty loyal to this brand.
Right.
um, so for him to even tease the idea that, yeah, I might just leave this shit and go over there because I could do whatever the fuck I want. I got Tony Khan's balls in my hand right now, bitch. You know what I mean? Like that was also like a fire heel move to make us hate you. But then to just lead it all up with like all the slandering, the changing of the bells, shitting on the way that it looked, making fun of the Indiana fans or whatnot, then just out of nowhere, just dropping that bomb with William Regal, yeah, like I think he was just trying to pull out any stop possible for y'all to hate him, which we're never gonna actually hate him because he's so good at what he does. But
Right.
when you painted the way you just did, along with me thinking back with the way he tried to cut that promo yesterday, that was actually excellent. And now that I think about it, I take back what I said. It should have been done just like that.
I made Mo a believer. Let's go.
Yet
I
again.
did it. Anywho, but speaking of William Regal, uh, the biggest question is he heading back to WWE ahead of this year's Survivor Series? Triple H tweeted out a video of William Regal with his signature War Games saying.
War games.
Shortly thereafter, it was
Gotta do it with
revealed
the
that
accent, man.
right, War Games. It's like that.
There
That's
you
like
go.
I had to like do the eyes and everything. I almost popped a blood vessel. But shortly thereafter, it was revealed that Regal had apparently signed a 1-year contract with AEW and could be returning to WWE after said contract expires. So, if he did, in fact, only sign a 1-year contract with AEW, and I'm saying if, these are rumors, this is not truth, but if he did sign a 1-year contract with AEW, do you believe that he will be heading back to WWE, or is he staying with All Elite Wrestling?
There's not too much for William Regal to like do in AEW unless he wants to attach himself to someone he wants to elevate as a heel per se,
Mm-hmm.
or he wants to just circle back like his little feud with MJF by taking somebody else as like an apprentice. Because I'm imagining that MJF is gonna have a really long reign. Um, and they're definitely gonna keep referencing like this little mini thing that they have going on where he's still pissed at him and holding a grudge because of something from a few years ago they're calling back. So I can still see him doing both. Because Triple H is here. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a different time, a different experience. He probably may have more control or more roles, and maybe just to give NXT that homey feel that we're all like missing, they they might just have William Regal go back down there and we could get our classic war games, that yell that we were
Right.
missing. Kind of pisses me off that they waited till right after the pay-per-view to jump him and have us questioning all this stuff. But
Right.
I feel like regardless where he goes, he's very usable. He has such a prominent role, he doesn't need to. wrestle or anything. He could be an on-screen act with his smaller role being either a manager or, managing someone. Um, would I like to see him back in WWE? Of course. Of course. But I can't be upset if he wants to stay in AEW seeing what he did for the MJF and Mox feud because it was already a solid feud. We were already like in love with it with then, but because of William Regal coming in and doing that small favor that he did, managing Mox and then pulling out that layer that we were looking for with MJF, so he's not like such a one note character on screen. It's just like wow, if he could do that to make a feud like that even more exciting, imagine what else he could do for AEW. So who needs the help more from William Regal is the question.
Mm.
Does WWE really need it? What would Triple H do with him, or should he continue to elevate other talents and other feuds in AEW? What do you think?
So, first of all, that's a great counter question to my question. Because the original
Mhm.
answer to my question was WWE. I think that he's definitely going to go to WWE. I feel like he only signed a 1 year contract because either he knew something that we didn't know or he just wanted to like try out AEW before fully committing, and he also wanted to remain open to as many options as he possibly could. And so that 1 year deal gives him flexibility, right? Like that 1 year expires, you can go back to WWE. If you like it in AEW, you can stay. um, there were so many things outside of his on-screen character in WWE that he was doing, like his scouting and his recruiting. And now that WWE kind of like, you know, got into a place where they're like, we're not fully out on the idea of including more indie wrestlers. There's a potential that William Regal can come back and can be used in the scouting capacity for that, as far as picking up indie wrestlers to bring to WWE. Now, as far as who needs his help more, I would love to see William Regal back in NXT Creative because it is a fresh roster compared to where he when he was down there before. Like he has a whole new set of faces. We don't know if Carmelo Hayes is going to be there for much longer, but even outside of that, you have so many different talents between Joe Gacy and Wes Lee and even on the women's side now that Ava Rain has debuted finally, and we starting to see Nikita and Zoe Stark develop their feud. Now you have a fresh set of faces to work with on both divisions in NXT, and I feel like WWE can use him. WWE can use him more than AEW at this point in time, considering that AEW is more. I mean, AEW is kind of like established itself outside of Regal in the sense of like, Tony recruiting like people that work with him on like, recruiting and like and talent development. And, they made all those promotions early in the year with Tony Schiavone and Pat Buck and Sanjay Dutt, guys like them, and then elevating guys like John Moxley and Chris Jericho, guys like them. It's like it seems like AEW already has their people, and if they want one more, then obviously they can get one more. But I think that considering that WWE is kind of like hitting the refresh button on the way they're doing business more than AEW is, I think that WWE can probably use him more than AEW can at this point in time.
Fair response.
That's
I
just
actually agree with
my
that.
That's just my opinion.
There'd be
I
so
was
much
gonna say,
I feel like that's what NXT is missing. It needs another uh veteran creative mind and like with William Regal there, like nothing was broken. Like nothing there was really no reasons for this man to
yeah,
go, but I think was it mutual that he wanted to go? I think it was mutual or
I
that
don't
he was just
even,
let go.
I don't even remember to be honest.
I remember he wrote a statement.
I think it was, I don't think it was mutual. However, he was just being a all time pro about it. Like he was just being a pro. He was just like, I'm just gonna go out gracefully. You know what I mean? Which should be the
Okay.
standard, but yeah.
Yeah, no, because he was just. I'm just saying, nothing was broken when he was there. If anything, like he made this time of year exciting for definitely a fan like me,
Mm-hmm.
that just just to hear war games every single year. So I gotta say it, war
Walk,
games. Sorry, there you go.
walk.
Um, so I feel like they definitely could benefit. But yeah, moving on.
Moving on. So speaking of of WWE and recruiting talent. According to SE Scoops, WWE is considering bringing back the WWE draft during the first week of April, around time for WrestleMania 39. Do you think that the WWE, well, let me backtrack for a second. Because it says that it's coming, they said that the draft may be coming back around WrestleMania 39. Obviously, the second most infamous show of that weekend is usually Raw after Mania. So, my question to you is, do you think that the WWE draft should make its return on Raw after Mania in Los Angeles?
Mm, I guess that makes sense because normally when they used to do the draft, it was like always around the cold months, like I don't know, October, November-ish when they used to do it. I guess that makes sense because WrestleMania is supposed to, like, at least in the way my brain works when I watch wrestling, kind of like concludes the year, even though it's in like, you know, the first quarter of the year or beginning of the second quarter of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a draft would make sense just because, like, afterwards, all the big storylines wrap up, and it's kind of like all right, what now? Like, what are we doing now? So I feel like it's a nice way to shuffle, so you're not running into rematches and stuff like that, because
Mm.
that's like a Vinceism. Vince likes to have a WrestleMania
Vince-ism.
match happen or feud. It's true. Like, he be doing this thing where, like, we all pay to watch Peacock or whatever network he decided to have, and then he doesn't really know what to do, and we're stuck with the same faces, so he kind of gives us rematches, or there's like a very dead period. It's like a little dead
Mm-hmm.
period um in April that I noticed when it comes to WWE. So
Mm-hmm.
drafts are always fun. I just don't want it to be a draft where it was the corny one that they did in like 2019, man. There was like this, they had like people in like meeting rooms before as
I
if
remember
like,
that.
I don't know,
The execs of
do you
Fox
remember?
and
It was really
USA.
corny.
Yes,
It
I
was
hated
really
that.
corny. Like, why did you they had people throwing their papers and pencils when they didn't get the person they wanted,
Right.
as if they were responsible for these decisions.
Right.
If they could just do like a classic draft the way they used to do it a decade ago,
Right.
you know, that that'd be fine. That'd be great with me. Just right after Mania, no corniness. Please don't make it look so like I know they try to, because they're tied to Fox and all that stuff, they try to make it like look more sports influence. Please, like, omit the corniness. Just let them just do the whole randomization thing, and we just find out when we find out, and life goes on with wrestling. But yes, to
Mm.
answer your question, a draft is needed after Mania. That is a good point. It would make sense to put it there. What do you think?
I honestly think that it would be perfect for the WWE draft to be scheduled for the Raw after WrestleMania. I think that, like you said, WrestleMania is the season finale of WWE's previous year. And I feel like it's become so normalized for a surprise return or for a debut to happen on the Raw after Mania, that it's like now it's not necessarily the Raw after Mania as like we remember it. It's the Raw after Mania like commercialized and all that other stuff. And I feel like if you're gonna do that, you might as well go all out and start fresh, like start fresh with a WWE draft. You keep some people, you send other people elsewhere, and it keeps people on their toes because even after WrestleMania, a lot of times people who lost their WrestleMania matches want they lick back, and it's like now with the draft on the horizon, you could be challenging for the WWE Women's SmackDown or the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. You lose that match, you're draft eligible. So you may not even be able to challenge for that championship again. I feel like it raises the stakes of WrestleMania in a way because it's like I could be drafted the next day and I may not be able to challenge for this championship again. And that makes the championship match even more important. I also think that the element of surprise with the WWE draft is fully in alignment with the element of surprise of Raw after WrestleMania. And so you might as well, roll two into one, get it over with. You know what I mean? And then you could just focus on your next year of programming. But to kind of go back to the question, I think that 100% they should have the WWE draft on the Raw after Mania. I want to know what y'all think about that, because this is actually a really good question. Yeah, I want to know what y'all think about that. But moving on, yeah. It looks like WWE, speaking of the draft, is expanding its international base. One of the plans that Triple H had when he first took over as the EVP of talent relations is he wanted to do local globalization, and he wanted to develop NXT like territories all across the world. Now that Triple H is the chief content officer, according to Shawn Michaels, at the Halloween Havoc media scrum, there are plans in 2023 of expanding NXT to specific countries. Two of those countries that came up that they said that they may be having an announcement soon for is Japan and Mexico, meaning that we're going to get an NXT Mexico and we're going to get an NXT Japan. So the question that I had for you, based on the based on this announcement coming of NXT Japan and NXT Mexico, if they were to be a thing, who would be the face of NXT Japan and who would be the face of NXT Mexico? If you had to pick one person that could be the face of either.
Well, first of all, like I think that's an amazing idea to have an NXT Japan and NXT Mexico, just because like when I think of like where the greatest wrestlers on the planet were trained at or were derived from, they definitely came from Japan and Mexico. So
Right.
that's such a really cool idea. I actually love that. But I had a hard time thinking about like the face of each brand because when I'm thinking about like the wrestlers that are on top, for at least for the females, because my brain immediately went towards the females. I'm like, is there
Mm-hmm.
anyone on like part of the female division that um is currently in NXT and hasn't been brought to the main roster that's been like booked well enough to even represent that? I mean, when I think of Japanese, I think of Sarai or Soraya or whatever her name is. Sorry that I botched it. And she's kind of been a bit of a non-factor. And then you mentioned Mexico. I'm like, do we have any like Mexican? I didn't want to like sit there and assume that every Latino that is um on NXT is Mexican. I was trying to actually look it up while you were asking the question because I'm like, well, Roxanne's Latina, and I think that she's like a really good baby face naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Don't and then I'm pretty sure Cora Jade's just white with tan. And then there's Brazilians in NXT aren't Mexican, so I'm just like, I don't know what you do for the females, but Legado I think would have been perfect. You know, if you want to have a face for NXT, but he got brought up to the main roster. I could only think about people who are formerly in NXT that could show up and be like, "Hey, like I'm homegrown from NXT." You know what I mean? And they want to at least like pay their respects by kind of attaching them. But you're asking
Mm-hmm.
for a face of a brand. That means you got to be on the brand. So it's kind of difficult. I mean, I could see Asuka popping in there because Asuka was like our first introduction to having like Japanese talent like be booked as like the face of a company and booked for it for so long and so well that it kind of like rerouted our brains into what wrestling could be like.
Right.
And then I know that they invested a lot of their time into Raquel, even though she was very controversial. She did have a long reign, or long enough reign on NXT. So I also don't think it'd be wrong if she popped in. But if you were to ask me like a name to be the current face that is on the NXT roster, I'm sorry, I don't think I got an answer for you. Do you have any selections?
So for NXT, and I opened this up because I didn't. It doesn't have to be anyone on the WWE roster. It could be WWE roster or people that are in question contractually. So the number
Oh,
one thing, the number one person that I had in mind for the face of NXT Mexico, if they were to go that route, is Andrade. One of the things that have
if he
been,
comes back.
yeah, if he comes back, I think that if we're talking about like, you know, if he has been released, which it looks like he has, and he's dealing with his injury, I think that when he comes back, I think that he can be the face of NXT Mexico. Reason being is because I feel like with LDF, I feel like obviously the main roster. I feel like him being there and Legato being there, based on the similarities between Santos and Andrade, I feel like they would clash because they're both debonair, smooth Latino men. And I feel like you don't want them to clash, but you want to have both of them on your roster. So I would just make Andrade the face of NXT Mexico. And I would send them down there with Elektra Lopez and see what they can come up with, because I feel like she was the odd woman out and
Ooh.
Zelina kind of took her spot. And I feel like with Elektra being paired with Andrade, they could build something down there while Zelina builds with Legato. And when they cross paths, they can cross paths and the story tells itself. Now, when it comes to,
Oh, I
and now
love
when it,
that. I love the way your brain works. Sorry,
I
go
be,
on.
I be thinking of whatever. Anyway,
I need that on a shirt. I need you
I
going
be
like
thinking
that
of,
on a shirt with that tagline.
I'm gonna do that. That's gonna be the first culture merch. But the second thing, and I think that this is gonna be the most intriguing one, the face of NXT Japan. Triple H needs to check on Kota Ibushi's contract situation,
What?
because I first of all, we forget how much of a generational talent that Kota Ibushi is. And I think that it would be absolutely perfect if they were to establish if they were to establish NXT Japan, Kota Ibushi should be the face. WWE should buy him out of his contract. Just listen, Japan, how much money do you need? How much? We'll give it. We'll give you the money that you want. We give you the money that you need. But I think that Coda is not. I'm gonna check how old this man is, because I don't even know if this
He has
man
to be
is
in
even
his
20.
30s.
No, he's not. I know he's young. Oh wait, he's 40. My bad. I thought he was
Told you.
super super young. I thought he was super
I
duper
know.
young.
I remember
Either
because I asked somebody before. I'm like, "Yo, he keeps like he gets more brolic and more in shape, but his face don't change. Like he looks great for his age. Like,
right. I thought he
bro,
was like
I don't
20
know what
something.
he's doing.
But I would love to
No,
see
no,
Kota
he got
Ibushi be
tenure.
I feel like Kota Ibushi would be the perfect face of NXT Japan, and I'm just gonna keep it at that. Those are my two selections. But I want to know what everybody else
Those are
feels.
great.
Thanks. I want to know what everybody else thinks. Who should be the face of NXT Mexico? Who should be the face of NXT Japan? Let us know in the comments. But moving on, per
Wait, what
People
about
Magazine.
females? You didn't mention females.
I don't. I didn't have it. I didn't have anybody. I honestly didn't have anybody for women. Like, cause I think
Fair.
that because you know what it is. I feel like for NXT Japan, I feel like the obvious choice would be Asuka as far as who's in the WWE roster. But I feel like she adds so much to the main roster in the States that they shouldn't relocate her. And she's so
What
much of a
if
main.
Kyrie ever came back?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they would. I feel like they would make Kyrie. If Kyrie Sane came back to WWE, I feel like she would be the face of NXT Japan. However, like New Japan got her laced, bro. Like they hooked her up. Like she's the first ever IWGP Women's World Champion. 9 times out of 10, she's gonna be
Oh,
one of the
yeah, no, we
first women.
lost her.
Yeah,
Never
yeah, it's
mind.
over. It's over for that. And she's taking her spot. She's chilling with her man. Um, and she got her title, and I feel like she's just gonna be happy over there. So I just like, if it's broke, don't fix it. Shout outs to Kyrie, but like, if I'm Kyrie Sane, I'm not leaving New Japan unless you're
All
giving
right,
me
fair take.
unless you're giving me a bag. But moving on. So, per People Magazine, WWE has signed Cheers Gabi Butler, the Netflix star and tenured gymnast, opened up to People Magazine, stating that she fell in love with pro wrestling after attending WWE SummerSlam in Nashville, and even she was even able to meet up with Stephanie McMahon. She got the whole treatment. It says that she will be in the Performance Center until further notice, and according to her interview, she fell in love with wrestling through that event. She was very intrigued by the athleticism, the storytelling, and she felt like she had a place. But she will be training in the Performance Center until further notice. So my question is, does this help WWE's mission of bringing in more mainstream